Hi guys, it's JoINrbs. Welcome back to my series where I'm reviewing each of the main 8 Long War II classes. Just saying what I like about them, what I don't like about them, how I like to use them to be most effective in my opinion. Just sort of sharing what I've learned about using these classes and how I think about them after a lot of time spent playing the game on Legend Iron Man. Today we're talking about the technical, and we're going to be talking specifically about technicals in late game. The previous two videos have gone over early game technicals and mid game technicals. And I've said that early game technicals are extremely strong based on the strength of their rocket and flamethrower, and that mid game technicals, while they do fall off in strength somewhat, they're able to retain a lot of their value just by building defensively and leveraging those flamethrower and rocket charges to do good things at important times. In particular, I said that Incinerator was one of the best perks in the game because it took a flamethrower, which was a very good item, very good consumable, very good action to begin with, and solved a lot of the problems with it by allowing it to be used at longer range against more enemies, which lets you burn lots of stuff, and burning stuff is very good in this game. It's a very good status effect. Today, we're looking forward into the late game, and a lot of people really struggle to make technicals shine in late game. I really love technicals in late game, honestly, and it's not unusual for me to have two of them in my team for Waterworld. I think that these are the go-to best tanks in the game right now, and that they're able to fill out the rest of what you want in a soldier just from the consumable charges from their gauntlet and from AWC perks. Especially pistol perks can be great on a technical with high aim who you're willing to invest some extra time in, especially if they have quick study. And as we get into late game, our roster is starting to compress. We go from in the early game where any soldier with ballistic weapons and Kevlar can perform, and so you want to get a very wide roster of lots and lots of soldiers going on missions. And then we're narrowing into a late game where we're equipping soldiers with very expensive equipment, and the missions that were being offered become less and less consequential. Do I care about a jailbreak in December? Not so much. I'm probably instead trying to finish infiltrating the Cygate or the Forge mission or something like that. Perhaps I'm playing a retaliation or invasion to defend an especially valuable haven, but I might not even bother. I may be going exclusively on missions to gather intel and missions which actually advance the quest by this point with, it's pretty typical for me to have 1.5 active squads, which I'm equipping with coil weapons and tier 3 armor of some sort. So, because the roster shrinks so drastically, all of a sudden your soldiers do have time to be training in the AWC, and all of a sudden you don't need as many soldiers with AWC perks. And so that idea of a technical who is a pistol user, who pistol users can shoot like 4 or 5 times in a turn pretty easily, who can leverage 18 aim progression, which is comparable to a ranger's aim progression, and do it while taking some of the best defensive perks in the game and having some of the best consumables in the game, adds up to a really, really nice soldier. I'm doing this technical review series right after my ranger review series, where I said some less than impressive things about rangers. I don't think rangers are that great, and one of the reasons is that you can get a lot of what they do, those consistent multiple shots with an assault rifle, out of just anybody who you train all the pistol perks on. And I think technicals are an excellent example of a soldier who's really, really good at using those pistol perks if they are given to them. So, with all that said, you don't have to be training pistol perks on your technicals for them to still be fine in late game, and I'm just going to walk you through a couple of levels worth of perks to sort of give you an idea of what I'm thinking here. I gave technicals a 6 out of 10 for alpha striking in late game and a 7 out of 10 for breakdown. I think the 7 out of 10 for breakdown should be fairly clear just based on what I've been saying. The 6 out of 10 for Alpha Striking may confuse you, and I'll explain what's going on with that once we hit Master Sergeant, but for now, let's look at Gunnery Sergeant. Let's throw Salvo out just straight away. Salvo lets our technical fire a rocket or throw a grenade without ending his or her turn, and I've said many times why I don't think technicals are going to be using offensive grenades very much, and why you need to fire your one rocket of the mission. You only have one rocket so far at Gunnery Sergeant, unless you have like an exosuit giving you more, but why you have to do that and then take an action is sort of a little bit beyond me. Yeah, I just don't really get it. So I gave Salvo 2 out of 10 for Alpha and 2 out of 10 for Breakdown, and I just don't think it's very good. Just get that out of the way. Tactical Sense gives 3 defense for each enemy you can see, up to a maximum of 15 defense, and I think this is very strong. I gave it 3 out of 10 for Alpha Striking, because if you take Tactical Sense on top of Fortify and Formidable and get like any other source of defense, basically, your soldier's approaching invincible. Approaching actually unhittable by enemy fire. If you're in heavy cover and hunkered as well, like, good luck enemies. And so a lot of people identify one of the cheesiest things that you can do in a game like Xcom to be to shoot enemies with snipers while they can't see you, because the enemies can't like attack you back, so they just helplessly die, and that's extremely strong, just crazy strong. If you take Tactical Sense here and like throw a smoke grenade on the technical, you can just actually have a soldier the enemies can see and attack standing right in front of them, and they can't deal damage to it. So it's not quite as insane as I'm making it sound like it is, because late game enemies have a lot of like psi attacks and AoE attacks and cover destruction attacks and crowd control attacks and so on and so forth. Attacks with shredder ammo to get rid of the technical's armor pretty quickly. They have a lot of aim, so even though you are stacking a lot of defense, they can still pull off some hits against you. But it's nearly as strong as I'm saying it is. It's genuinely very strong, especially if you pair it with a defensive PCS. You start with a soldier with positive defense. This one has 0 defense, but some soldiers will have positive defense to start. Pair it with an 8 protocol from a specialist. Oftentimes when I see Tactical Sense on a perk tree, I want to be able to take it and build a soldier like that, but the technical is the only person who really has room for all of these defensive perks, just because of how strong the consumables are, even without taking anything to support them. So Tactical Sense is an option. Yeah, I gave it 3 out of 10 for Alpha Strike, which is more than 1 out of 10, even though it deals no damage, just because of the possibility to put your technical in front of enemies and control them just by the technical standing there. You can also go flank enemies and make them move to somewhere stupid if you want. And controlling enemies and stopping them from hitting you extends the amount of time that you have to Alpha Strike them before they start doing anything relevant. It can make it so that you're in complete control of a situation and it's not falling into a breakdown, even if you didn't kill all the enemies straight away. So I think it's extremely strong. Extremely strong as a breakdown perk. I rated it 8 out of 10. It gives you a soldier who can go to lots of places other soldiers wouldn't really like to go, and just really be a nuisance to AI trees, make them do stuff that isn't really very threatening to you, and help you solidify the rest of your soldiers and get them dealing the damage that's needed to kill stuff. And a lot of that is understanding which enemies are dangerous, how they're going to be dangerous, what they're going to do if your technical is standing in a certain place versus a certain other place. And that's a difficult skill to develop. So if you are building a technical like this and playing the game for the first time or something like that, you may find yourself getting frustrated as enemies do things that you're not really expecting. But once you have gotten to a point where you really can see in advance how enemies are going to react to different things, having this ability on the soldier is going to be insanely strong. I don't usually actually pick it though, because I think quick burn is even stronger when you've paired it with Incinerator already. It's going to let you use Flamethrower twice in the turn without having to use a charge of command from your officer, which is really, really nice. It's also going to let you move forward in Flamethrower and then move back into heavy cover, which goes a step further towards solving the eternal problem of the Flamethrower, which is that you have to put a soldier into a sort of awkward location to get the best use possible out of it. And it also just lets you like Flamethrower and then hunker, which can be really valuable in the same way that Tactical Sense would be valuable. Often in these crucial turns, you want to be able to get a Flamethrower off as well as having a soldier standing somewhere where it's really, really difficult for the enemy to kill the soldier, and Quick Burn lets that soldier get the Flamethrower off and then hunker in the heavy cover they were in, or move forward Flamethrower and then move back to heavy cover and, be almost as good as the Tactical would be with Tactical Sense. So I typically take Quick Burn here. I have taken Tactical Sense in the past as well. Tactical Sense was nerfed in one of the later patches for Long War 2, and because of that, I'm erring more toward Quick Burn now, but they're both very strong perks, and I think Quick Burn's a little bit better. Master Sergeant. So some of you are probably wondering, this soldier doesn't really deal any damage. It's got an okay Overwatch shot because it has Shredder ammo, and that's going to shred some armor, perhaps. It's got a rocket, one rocket. It can shoot one rocket a mission. Is that good? You might be wondering. The Flamethrower sets stuff on fire. That's pretty cool. That is genuinely pretty cool. But it's not insanely strong. It's not like a super crazy high damage attack that some other class might have. So what's this Alpha Strike rating all about, you might be wondering? And the answer is Bunker Buster. Bunker Buster is sort of the quintessential Alpha Strike perk. Fire a special rocket that destroys buildings and other objects in the environment. The AoE on it is huge. The consistency with which it destroys environmental objects is extreme. The scatter on it at this point in the campaign is very low because you've gotten your full plus 18 aim from level progression, which means that how scatter actually works on rockets is you roll 2, 4, or 6 dice. Whatever it says max scatter is how many dice you're rolling, and you try to beat your aim plus a couple of modifiers. Maybe only one, maybe only the range of the rocket is the only modifier. And if you beat your aim, it doesn't scatter a tile. If you fail against your aim, it scatters a tile, and you add up how many tiles it scatters and then decide a random direction. But at this point in the campaign, you have quite high aim, so you're not failing those die rolls very often at all, and the Bunker Buster's AoE is so large that it doesn't even matter. And there are lots of abilities in this game by now that deal with enemies without having to remove their cover. The Flamethrower is a really good example. A lot of soldiers can be built to kill enemies who are in heavy cover. There are abilities which do remove cover from troublesome enemies and can do so, reliably and repetitively. Even just a Sapper Grenade does, and has been for the entire campaign, basically. But also, a perk like Demolition on a gunner is a super straightforward single target option. Saturation Fire on a gunner is an AoE cover removal. Sort of comparable to Bunker Buster, actually. A very strong perk, but a little bit lower range, or lower AoE, I would say, on average. And maybe a little bit more awkward to use, because the gunner sort of has to do other things to be as valuable, I feel like. But the thing about Bunker Buster is that it combos so extremely well with Serial on Sharpshooters. You have this one-time use consumable, which destroys cover from a massive amount of enemies, and at the same time you have Serial on a Sharpshooter, which is on a very long cooldown, so it's probably only happening one time that's relevant on each mission, and it wants to be able to last hit enemies. Well, the cogs are all whirring upstairs right now. What if we removed all the cover from the enemies and then turned on Serial and shot them? This is this is, I think, like one of the most straightforward and extremely powerful combos in the entire game. Bunker Buster plus Cereal just wins you missions just on the spot a lot of the time. I've chained cereals for like 15 plus enemies. This is so strong that you can actually deliberately pull lots of pods at once, whereas like up until having this, you'd almost never like to pull everything on the map at once. Once you have Bunker Buster and Cereal, if you have like a few pods in near vicinity to each other, you may start to actually considering just to activate them all at the same time, get them all sort of clustered together. Bunker Buster, Cereal, they're all dead. So, and that's a perk that we didn't really have to support in any way on the entire tree. We just sort of got it for free at Master Sergeant. It's not like Rupture on the Ranger, where we took a bunch of shooting perks to try to make Rupture really good, and we had a soldier who we were trying to give good aim to, and had a soldier who we were taking offensive perks on, so we have to sort of defend the soldier and put it in nice cover and stuff like that. This is a perk which just happens after we build this soldier all the way to Master Sergeant, and none of the other perks really relate to it at all, honestly. I mean, it's a better version of the starting rocket, but it's not like it synergizes with the starting rocket because it's a separate consumable. It's just a very, very, very strong Master Sergeant perk. I rated it 9 out of 10 for Alpha Striking. I only gave it a 4 out of 10 in a breakdown because you'll find in breakdowns, if you're using Bunker Buster, that you're often ending up very dissatisfied with your ability to actually kill tier 3 enemies. You sort of have to focus them down with a concerted effort. Just the Bunker Buster plus 1-0 Sharpshooter is likely not going to be enough, and even when you have that combo in place, you want to be able to set the Sharpshooter up in the right place to have line of sight on them. So it works better if you're really controlling an Alpha Strike and doesn't do quite so amazingly in breakdowns, but all the same, it's very, very strong. Rapid Fire on a technical, I gave 5 out of 10 for Alpha Striking and for breakdowns, but it's not that exciting because if you have a technical who you want to be able to shoot lots of times, you can give them a pistol and they can shoot lots of times without having to take a Master Sergeant perk. Generally speaking, it's going to be cheaper to train for a few weeks than it will be to give up a Bunker Buster, because Bunker Buster is the best consumable in the game. I'm trying to think of... Probably it's just the best consumable in the game. You don't really want to have to take Rapid Fire for that. Firestorm, I gave a 5 out of 4 for Alpha Striking and a 4 out of 10 for Breakdowns, which is a pretty terrible rating for a perk that looks very, very flashy and impressive on the surface. There are 2 reasons I'm going to give for this. Reason number 1 is that Firestorm is a perk which encourages you to sort of support the technical doing something that the technical isn't actually that amazingly well suited for. If you're using the technical for AoE, you have to run the technical forward into the center of enemies. And the problem with that is that unless you're only having those enemies left in the entire map, you're going to pull a ton more stuff and then you're going to have to deal with that. It's not necessarily impossible to pull a bunch of stuff way back over there and then deal with it. You could, for example, move forward, activate Quick Burn, Firestorm, use a command from your officer to move backward again into heavy cover, use an aid protocol to cover your technical, and then have some defense abilities on the technical, survive the next turn, and then you have a bunch of enemies and you work out how to deal with them after that. I just gave myself a headache just thinking about how much work that is. There are other soldiers in this game with AoE abilities, including the technical has a Bunker Buster. It's over there on the other side of the tree. Oh, this is backwards on the camera, so I should probably point that way. Just use that. Keep it simple. You don't have to go that crazy. So, I just think this build is really cool and really pretty. This is why I didn't go for the Roust build, which I think is very strong as well. Incidentally, I take Bunker Buster in the Roust build as well. Um, it's just such a pretty build where we like start with Fire in the Hole, then we never take a rocket perk again. We're taking like all these defensive weird perks, including Shredder. Like, I've spoken so little about shooting with the main gun, but I want to reiterate, you take a lot of Overwatch shots in this game and Shredder applies to them, and you'll also find reasons to shoot with your main gun and have it be really good if you have Shredder on your bar. So like, yeah, you have that, and like Formidable, which is this weird perk which you can use to abuse AI in weird ways. Like, most soldiers don't have the freedom to worry about taking perks specifically to abuse AI trees in weird situations. Combatives is the only perk other than Formidable which sort of springs to mind. But there you go. And then all of a sudden at Tech Sergeant, whoa, I'm taking Incinerator, and then I'm taking Quick Burn. What happened? I thought we didn't like the Flamethrower, we didn't take Roust. And then at Master Sergeant to take Bunker Buster. What even just happened? Meanwhile, the soldiers like training pistol perks in the AWC. I genuinely think this is typically going to be the strongest build on a technical. There are lots of reasons to deviate. A build that is this hectic is going to find all sorts of situations where some slight variation is going to be beneficial based on like what your roster can do, what your AWC perks are, and what your starting stats were and stuff like that. But for just a run-of-the-mill technical, this is sort of my default go-to, and I think it's a really, really strong build. It's a very strong, tanky soldier with insanely good consumables who can hold down the fort for you for multiple turns and then swing the entire mission with one action. So, I hope you guys enjoyed my review of the technical class. I'll be seeing you guys tomorrow, and we'll be starting on another class. I haven't decided whom yet, but tune in and you can find out with me. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. I want to reiterate again that these are my opinions about the class. I don't think that I've solved the game. I don't think that everything that I do is perfect. I identify, in fact, one of the reasons that I can beat the game on Legend difficulty to be that I'm open to other people's ideas and think that other people have really good ideas about the classes. So I just want to get my ideas out there for you to use, and I'm really happy to hear your ideas as well. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you guys next time for another episode of JoINrbs Reviews the Long War II classes.